Look, you guys, I have had many talks with people in my chat, in my comments, not really in person because none of my friends play Hollow Knight, and also, of course, on the Cherry Time podcast, which has a new episode dropping this weekend or Monday. Very soon it's dropping. But in all these talks, right, we're always talking about what we want from Silksong and what we expect and some things we'd like to see, when it's going to take place, if the wait is going to be worth it. I wanted to make one video for the channel and gather my thoughts on what I actually want from the game and the things I think it will innovate from the original. Anyway, yeah, I thought it would be cool to just look back and see if anything was right. Predict a little bit, you know? And so before I start, this is just my own personal ideas or wants. So if anyone has any other ideas, please comment down below. You know, I'd love to see what you guys all think, especially when we go look back at it, when we're Silksong is finally out. Like, I'll be 65 then, and like Silksong will finally drop, and I'll look back at this video and all the comments that you guys posted, and then we'll just be like, oh my god, Noob Killer 72 was right. He was right, you guys. Or like, you know, I don't know. But anyway, let's go. First off, it's important to know that this is not Hollow Knight, and the starting points are going to be very different. I also want to point out that like the landscape of gaming has changed a lot since Hollow Knight, like probably for the worse. For instance, Fortnite was not even released yet. Can you believe that? Can you believe Fortnite wasn't even a game when Hollow Knight was out? Like, it wasn't even out yet. It didn't even take over the world. But with all that in mind, first thing I want to talk about is just the bare minimum, right? Just the basic Hollow Knight formula that we know. That's what I want and expect. A smooth combat system, tough boss fights, a cool new world to explore, which obviously it will have all that. I only say this because, of course, we don't want a situation where they just change up everything we know about the game and make the combat like a total 180 from what it was. Or like randomly make it a world, like a world-based game like Celeste or something where it's like different levels. Yeah, just something like, of course, we don't want any weird change like that. So at bare minimum, I just want kind of the same formula. A major change like that won't happen. I just felt like it was a good starting point. Now, when it comes to where it takes place, or when it takes place, that's always been a major debate, you know? Sequel, prequel, what's it gonna be? And everyone has some great opinions about that. And I'd love to maybe do like a video, you know, about this more in the future, but I don't know. It's not needed. So it's not on the list yet, but maybe. But I do have a prediction for what I think it would maybe be and what I kind of hope it might be. And so this is going to be a little weird, but what if it was both? What if it was a prequel and a sequel? Now hear me out. Before you start typing away and saying, oh, it can't be because of this or it won't be because of that, just hear me out. Just hear me out a little bit. I definitely think this game will take place in either, like, it's going to take place in all the future or all the past. Like, whichever one they choose, it's not going to, like, go back and forth. I just think that if it happens to be in the future, and since Hornet is such a crucial character in Hollow Knight and has such a mysterious past, it would be interesting to have some sort of like optional side missions that maybe like explore and maybe flash back to her past. Like, not anything to break like the main point of the game, like only to provide some little information, maybe even lock it behind like some extremely hard platforming missions, sort of like the Path of Pain. I don't know. They have kind of done it before, so it'd be interesting to get like some context to who Hornet is, where she came from, exactly, like, or things that she's experienced before Hollow Knight. But really, this is all part of a bigger prediction and want for Silksong, which is just having some like amazing optional side stories. Hollow Knight did it well. I think it was also very simple in the first game, like the side characters that you run into, of course it's amazing, and it's hard to actually want this without it like potentially coming with like excess dialogue or like, I don't know, just stuff that we don't want to actually deal with. I just think a lot more little side stories that really don't even have much to do with Hornet or Silksong could add just a lot of richness to the world. Similar to like, I don't know, a Breath of the Wild or like a Red Dead, something like that. I know those are 3D games, of course. They just have some very rich side content that I think will kind of be implemented in this. I think there's going to be a lot to dive in Farloom that isn't just what we're, the story that we're kind of expecting to follow between Hornet and Lace and whatever, is going on in Farloom. I think there could be a lot of other little side stories that just have their own rise and fall to them. But to branch off of that even, I would like to get into the overall world of Farloom. And I might start getting a little bit more vague at this point, so I'm sorry if it doesn't make sense. But this prediction is also kind of playing off of the delay and the wait we've been going through. A lot of people think they're still adding stuff to the game. It may not be like in the final stages yet, which is wild because it really did seem like it was, with the ratings and stuff like that. It seemed like we're really, really close. If I think about the map that Mossbag had theorized about Farloom, and if we hypothetically just say that that map is the size of Hollow Knight as well, let's also take into consideration that that map was based off of info given to us years ago. It's reasonable to think that they may have increased the size of the map, or potentially just never told us about certain things. I'm gonna jump out the window a little bit right now and say that Farloom will be like double the size of Hollow Knight. And what would be super interesting to me, right, is if you kind of start off, start off somewhere more in the center, and after like a tutorial area, I forget, is it the Mossy Grotto that we already know is going to be like the start of it? Like maybe after Mossy Grotto, like you kind of end up like really reaching like the center, and maybe like you end up in like a city or a town, not the main one. And then the game, after it kind of like shows its objective to you, it then shows you like how big the world actually is then. Like different from Hollow Knight, because you get to the City of Tears, right? And then, then you really find out about your objective. But like a majority of us have played Hollow Knight already. Like we've already gone through that. So I imagine that they're going to find a way to really introduce this objective to us differently. And this is where, instead of having like 3 different goals and still like a lack of awareness of how big the world actually is, it can then send us on our new objective, but it shows us that there is a ton of different ways we can go from there. As free and open as Hollow Knight is, especially with like glitches and stuff, it still does have a lot of locks and a lot of walls that kind of send people often in the same paths or routes. And I think Silksong could break that and feel like more open than any 2D game as it like ever felt. Really just give that like, oh wow, this is an open world now, and I can go up, left, right, down. I can go to this little cave. You can start your journey anywhere. There's so much to, I really feel like it could be like that. And of course, like, I don't think that is going to affect like the speed running route. Like there's always going to be like that one faster, quicker route, but there's still just going to be like, I just think it would be cool if that first time where, it's like the game really starts after like a tutorial area, if the players could just you know, if everybody could go such different paths, you know, if there's like 8 different paths to go of just like, oh, you could go this way, you could go up here, you could go to this area, and it'd just be so vastly different. I don't know, just an idea. And now I guess I'd like to get into some more out there like wants and predictions. Now, these may be a little bit more specific, but after playing Elden Ring for the first time recently, and while that is a 3D game and very different from Hollow Knight, I can't help but think about the dungeon layouts and just the catacombs too in general, and how memorable like both those separate things were. So I would like to see some sort of like recurring catacomb type challenge in it, like something that's just like a recurring challenge of area that's always different. Like, you know, nobody wants them to be too cookie cutter, of course, but something that gives you some sort of resource and maybe like a good boss fight at the end. I know maybe some people have critiques about the catacombs and stuff, but I liked them and I hated them too. And they genuinely did get harder and harder, like as you kind of went to the new areas, and they were just memorable to me at least. So I think it'd be cool to implement something like that into this game. Along with that, I think it would be cool to see some like maybe some sort of like actual 2D dungeon. These elaborate buildings that kind of stand alone from the area that they are in. Each one of them like vastly different in themes and gameplay and maybe some gimmicks, making them maybe the main bosses in the game, but it would be cool and interesting if they were like outside of the main plot and they just offer some great rewards and upgrades that could be missed, that maybe a lot of people will miss because they're actually really tough to manage. With the amount of optional content in Hollow Knight, I can only imagine what they're going to end up hiding in Silksong outside of the main path. And now, of course, I want and expect some sort of like Coliseum again, but more specifically, I really hope they have like a couple of them. Like, it would be interesting to maybe even just split like the 3 different challenges into like 3 different, you know, areas, you know, like the first one had 3 different trials, but maybe, you know, it's 3 different trials across the map. Maybe there's separate arenas based on like all the enemies in that area. I really loved all the Coliseum challenges in Tears of the Kingdom that were in the underground portion of the world. And I think it would be cool to just run into like a few new Coliseums along the journey. I think it's safe to say that we'll get some sort of God Home thing as well. But I've never really been able to wrap my head around like how they're gonna do it. Like, it most likely will be, you know, exactly the way it happened in Hollow Knight, and that would make sense, you know, based on what God Home is and what we know about it. But I would think that there might be more to it, you know, and I imagine it will be in the game day one. In fact, I don't think we are getting any free DLC like the first, you know, like the first one had free DLC, but I think that was honestly just because they couldn't live without putting that stuff in the game. Like, I think that was stuff they needed in the game before it released, but they kind of had to sacrifice it to get the game out in time. And I think maybe that's a good reason why they're not, you know, why Silksong isn't out yet, because they're not willing to sacrifice their vision at all. And I don't know. So I don't think there'll be any free DLC, and I'm interested to see what they're gonna do with God Home. You know, there'll be some sort of dreamer thing, you know, but we'll see. Now, I'm sure I could come up with a ton more things, and I'm sure that you guys will actually come up with a lot of things too. So I guess I'll just go ahead and cut it off now, because really, I mean, there's only one thing that I know that every single one of us wants, and that is Ask Jim. Thank you all if you're still watching, and let me know what you predict for Silksong. Let me know what you'd like to see, if there's any like cool ideas you have, or like even if it's like wildly specific, just let me know, and maybe I'll make a part 2 with your guys' comments. Who knows? See you guys when I see you. New Cherry Time episode on my next upload. Bye.